Hello, this is Tymon. I'm in my library room, kind of my library room. It's actually the passage area between the kitchen. We got this space in here. We have my bookshelf and there's an easy chair behind me where the cat is sitting on. And this is where I like to film my Truth Talk with Tymons. I don't have my tie on today, and not just too fancy. And this is not a political video, for change. But we know that we do have somebody that's a 34-time convicted felon. Convicted of sexual assault, stole classified documents, had him when they opened in Mar-a-Lago, and incited an insurrectionist attack on the Capitol, who is president again. And that to me is a shame. That is very, very shameful for America. So I'm going to say about that. I am sad that the Pope passed away. He was a very good Pope, and I was raised a Catholic, and so it's in my upbringing. And in fact, I prayed the Rosary one night because of the Pope's passing, and I'm going to probably pray the Rosary again tonight. I don't know. All you got to do is just turn on the TV and hear the top news. You know, the school shooting at FSU and all these different things. The plane crashes, the planes on fire, one-way incursions. Yeah, Trump was doing a great job. Woo-ah! Not. Okay, that's enough of that. Today's Truth Talk with Tymon is about generations. Generations. What generation are you from? That is my question. I'm going to ask the question beforehand, and I'll probably ask it again. What generation is your generation? I'm going to cover all the generations, all the way from the Civil War to the current generation. So sit back, relax, and learn about the generations. This is Truth Talk with Tymon. Alright, let me take off my glasses. Yes, I do wear glasses. I just hardly ever have them on videos. Stick it back here. Alright. The generations. I got my notebook. It's got a lot of scratch pages in it. Alright. I'm just going to read from my notes, and like I said, enjoy this video. Hope you learned something. Here are the generations. First, I'm going to read the list. The Civil War generation, 1845-1864. That's what they call it. The Gilded Age generation, 1865-1882. And the Industrial Age generation, 1883 to 1900. And these three that I just mentioned are also known as the Lost Generation. So some sites still had these three as one, and they call it the Lost Generation. Alright. Then there's the Greatest Generation, 1901 to 1927. The silent generation, 1928 to 1945. The baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. Generation X, my generation, 1965 to 1980. The Millennials, 1981 to 1996. The Zoomers, or Gen Z, 1997 to 2012. Generation Alpha, 2013 to 2024. And now the newest generation is Generation Beta, 2025, and it's supposed to go into 2039. Then after that will be Generation Codex from 2040 to who knows when. I'm not thinking that far ahead because I probably would be off the earth by then. I have already enjoyed 60 years of life. All right, let's break these generations down, shall we? The Civil War era, 1861 to 1865. Civil War, of course, was a fight over slavery. I don't care what anybody says. It was a fight over slavery, and states' rights tore the nation apart. They tore the nation apart. So, they created the Civil War. Of course, our 16th president was in, Abraham Lincoln. We had the abolishment of slavery in 1865 with the 13th Amendment. I wrote down here, the blacks were free, but were they really free? The end of the Civil War ended slavery, but it led to high land prices, forcing the blacks to work again in fields, picking cotton. Those that had the means traveled to northern states to find better opportunity. But later the separatist movements led to the Jim Crow laws. To carry in Jim Crow laws. But here's something that happened. In 1960, William Fanti Elementary School in Louisiana went from an all-white school to a desegregated school. And on November 14th, 1960, moment in history, the first black girl named Ruby Bridges was escorted by the troopers to attend the school. But she was a subject of a 1964 painting entitled "The Problem We All Live With" by Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell, what a great artist. I have a degree, one of my degrees is in arts, and I really enjoy the Norman Rockwell paintings. So basically I'm talking about slavery here. In 1964, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, signed the Civil Rights Act. In 1981, Reagan enacted the Right to Education Act, which stated any immigrant child, no matter of status can be educated. But sadly today, under the tyranny that we have under the Trump regime, these acts are being undone. With the generations and decades of fighting for equal rights of all, with equal rights activists like Martin Luther King, Booker T. Washington, David B. Du Bois, Rosa Parks, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lewis, and others. It's all being undone by this Trump regime. 160 years of fighting for equal rights, equal opportunities, and that's just sad. All right, now the next. The early industrial era, the International Railroad, okay, enacted by Lincoln in 1862, with the Central Pacific of San Francisco and the Union Pacific would meet, making a rail line from California to New York. And that was completed, but it was completed after Lincoln's death. I believe, I have written down here, it was completed in 1867. Yeah, so that was 3 years after Lincoln's death. The Gilded Era, 1865 to 1882. Reconstruction after the Civil War. And rebuilding the South, not just in construction, on railway, but a new way of thinking about the abolishment of slavery. This did not age well with many Southerners, especially those who fought to keep the slaves. You know, those who fought on the for the South side. All right. This led to rise in monopolies as well. Tycoons like Rockefeller used these fortunes to influence labor markets, banks, and incorporated more mass wealth. And of course, the westward expansion. This encouraged the migration into the western states, you know, from the Midwest area, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Midwest states, the western states are states that's west of those, and the expansion built into states like Nevada and California. California was really expanded during this era. Just to name a few. And there was much economic development. You know, as the population started to expand. So basically, that's what happened during that era. That was a lot of things. And so I talked about everything from the Civil War to the Civil Rights to the Gilded Era, and then the Reconstruction, the boom, high-rise. I didn't mention the high-rises, but the high-rises happened during that industrial era. New York was really built. The first skyscrapers were taking place. That expansion led to those skyscrapers and taller and bigger buildings. And yes, that was back in the 1880s to, when all that started. So, wow, that makes you think, like, the development of the United States, how it actually came about. Now, I'm not talking about when I can do another video later on about 1619, when the first settlers came here. But I'm talking about from the Civil War era, and just from then, look at the expansion, What happened during the greatest era? The greatest era deals with the Great Depression, 1929 to 1939. World War II, from 1939 to 1945. And post-war recovery. And these people from that area are known to be hardworking, frugal, patriotic, and family-oriented. The silent generation, 1928 to 1945. The silent era deals with the aftermath of World War II, of course. Then another war, the Korean War, the Forgotten War, 1950-1953, and the rise of television. The people of this era are known for being reserved, hardworking, and traditional. The culture brought early rock and roll like Elvis Presley, suburban expansion, and classic films like 2000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the golden era of TV like I Love Lucy. The baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. The boomers emerged in the era of economic prosperity and rapid societal change. They witnessed the civil rights movement, which I talked about, 1954 to 1968. They witnessed they were part of the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, in which many of that area fought in the war, like my Uncle Gary, my sensei, Jess Mills, Sergeant Jess Mills, 1840 to 2011. My great cousin, Sergeant Steve Carlson, who also passed away. So, Vietnam War was one of the worst wars because when the troops came home, my great cousin, my uncles, and family that I had talked about that fought in that war, how they were spit on, how they were mistreated. They came back from the airports and they were called names like baby killers and it's very terrible to me the way those veterans were treated. When I came home, from all the stuff that I like to golf, for example. But it wasn't treated like that. You know, people respected us. But that Vietnam era, sadly, the veterans had no respect, and many of them didn't volunteer. Many of them were drafted. But you also have that coward, draft dodger, as president, Trump. Bone spurs, I'm afraid to fight. And he disrespects our veterans by calling us suckers and losers. That's the great of graves. That's the great of Gold Star families. I just shake my head at the whole thing. He's a piece of crap evil dictator, so they were down here. And I was going to yell, he can go straight to hell. And he will. When he passes, he will go straight to hell. God ain't even going to want him in heaven. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. And, okay, here we go. And with the baby boomer era, so they witnessed, you know, Kennedy, who started the space race. However, Kennedy did not get to see the moon landing. He was dead before then. The assassination of Kennedy was another thing that happened during the boomer era. And anyway, the moon landing in 1969, you know, LBJ finished what Kennedy started, and we did have our moon landing in 1969. That's actually one of the first things I remembered. I was 3 going on 4 years old, and I do vaguely remember that, you know, sitting on my dad's lap, my sister on the other knee, and then and my younger sister sitting on my mom's lap and on the couch, and we had the old TV, the one that had the stereo in it and all that. I don't know if it was that one, but we had TVs like that, the old tube TVs. And this era, they're known to be ambitious, competitive, and driven. They're known to be ambitious, competitive, and driven. This culture had Woodstock. TV became a household item. And the iconic bands like the Beatles. As I break down things, my generation, Generation X, 1965 to 1980. Yes, my generation. We are often overlooked by baby boomers and millennials. You know, people think of boomers, people think of millennials. What is in between? Our generation, my generation, Generation X. We were known as the latchkey generation, the latchkey kids. Many in that generation, the divorce rates were high. And so, a lot of single parent families of that generation, sadly. Or there was 2 parents working to make ends meet, which you actually see today. But you actually, it's funny how things recycle, which you also see today. I know I just repeated that. Because many of us kids, 8 and older, is what I wrote, had to pretty much defend for ourselves. We were more independent. As children, we were more independent. with 2 jobs. Okay. So we were taught the basics, like meal prep, and cooking, home safety, what to do when something happens in the home. I hate to say it, but I believe Generation X grew up smarter than most generations because of the children being more independent. We were or are known for being independent, adaptable, and somewhat skeptical. That's what it is. Okay. I got some side notes. Let me read my side notes here. We were the outdoor era. We loved camping. Camping was on the rise. We had our 8-track cassettes on our vehicles. We had our vinyl record albums. We had the reel-to-reel tapes. We had cassettes. We were the age of the surfing. Surfing really boomed during our era. And many beach goers. In the age of the, don't really like the word, but the hippies. Our culture had the Cold War, 1947 to 1991. We had a nuclear threats, rise of the personal computer. And the tech was more integrated into homes. And the real MTV, not the MTV they have today where they play these teen drama movies, but the real MTV with rock videos. I remember watching lots of Kiss videos, Van Halen videos, Bonnie Tyler, mind blocks now, Pat Benatar, lots of different music videos. That's what they actually played on MTV. Music television, real, like I said, MTV. We had the punk rock movement. We had the hairband movement. And we had Kiss. To me, Kiss is the greatest rock and roll band that ever lived. We had the Kiss Army. Oh yes. We had the iconic movies like The Breakfast Club starring Molly Ringwald. We had 16 Candles also starring Molly Ringwald. Pretty in Pink, Harold Hammond. I was on a Molly Ringwald kick when I wrote this. I wrote down 3 Molly Ringwald films that Molly Ringwald was in. The rise of the video game arcades. You go to the arcade and play the stand-up video games. This was also the era of the Atari and Atari 2600 systems. We had the Rubik's Cube. We had Slinky. I still have my Slinky. We had the Erector set. I still have my Erector set. Iconic TV shows. We had the Dukes of Hazzard. We had the Incredible Hulk. The $6 Million Man. Because the best music I wrote, the 80s music to me was the best music of all time. We had the, but of course with Kiss, I already mentioned Kiss, so I don't want to be like that horse. We had the classic game systems and the Apple computers. In the greatest fashion of the 70s and 80s, of the bell bottoms and Daisy Duke cutoff jeans. We played outside till the streetlights came on. We rode in back of pickup trucks. We were the era of the skateboarding, of the outside skating. And I say we were the most responsible era because women never had to be told what to do, what our chores, stuff like that. And so, of course, there's exceptions of every era. There's always bad apples of every era. But in general, kids were the most responsible during that era. And didn't have to be told to do homework and none of that stuff. We got things done. Now, well, Generation X is the best. We are the bridge builders of this rapidly changing world. Yet people forget about Generation X, but look at all the stuff that happened during that generation. Wow. So to get through this, guys, I'm working on it. The Millennials, 1981 to 1996. Millennials had to deal with 9/11, the attacks of 2001, which reshaped the worldview and focused on security. There's the Great Recession in 2007 to 2009, a great economic downturn after re-entering the workforce.
Okay, my camera cut off sooner than I anticipated. So I was talking about millennials. Okay. We deal with the Great Recession, 2007 to 2009, with the great economic downturn, often re-entering the workforce, and the rise of social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, etc. Right? Of course, I left Twitter after it became X, and then I'm on Blue Sky now. Blue Sky is a really good one, guys. This we define communications and activism. They are known for being tech savvy, idealistic, and are often criticized unfairly, labeled as entitled, and have high student debt, sadly. The concept about the Harry Potter phenomenon. I love the Harry Potter movies, right? Reality TV and a streaming service like Netflix. They continue to redefine norms, balancing digital lives with meaningful change. They continue to redefine norms, balancing digital lives with meaningful change.
Well, this camera went off, and I don't know who it went off at. I was talking about Zoomers, 1997 to 2012, and I talked about the changes that they made and the changes that's coming. You know, with the evil dictator of Trump, getting rid of the, denying the climate change and getting rid of the programs of the EPA and NOAA and all these things. I was talking about AOC and how she stands up against the hate, the tyranny, and the bullying of Donald J. Trump, the biggest bully that we ever had. He is a danger. And I said that the Zoomers are known for being socially conscious and entrepreneurial. Right? And now discuss about TikTok with creative expressionism and YouTube influencers. The creativity and pragmatism drives future change. The creativity and pragmatism drives future change. Now I'm going to talk about the youngest generation. Generation Alpha, 2013 to 2024. This young era is defined by AI, climate awareness, and global connectivity. They are known to be adaptive, creative, and collaboration. They can take something out of nothing, basically, and try to rebuild it. And that's basically what's going on right now, with all this. And the generation beta is the new current generation. I have a grandnephew from my niece Emma, who's just born during this current generation, the brand new generation. Declan, oh man, he is so cute. This generation is going to go from now on to 2039. This is the newest generation, of course. And what will the future hold for them? What will the future hold for them? With the destruction of the world, by especially like the last generations, because of the denial of the climate and stuff, and the pollution that we have done to the world, and years and years of fighting for the climate change, and years of denying, and look at the earth now. What is the future going to hold for them? We're supposed to leave stuff for the future generation. We're supposed to hold stuff for the future children. But we're not leaving nothing for them. We're not leaving a good earth for them. Honestly, I feel bad for the upcoming generation. I really feel bad for them. When they're in a world of hurt, what done? Pollution, destruction, violence, hate. We could have a future nuclear war. They say that's how the world's going to end, according to the Bible saying, according to when they interpret Revelation. Then later there would be a new heaven and new earth. But what is it going to hold for them? But I hope you enjoyed my generations video. I'll see you in the next Truth Talk with Tymon. And I believe I'm going to be talking more about the world religions. I did the how we worship the one monolithic God, and now I'm going to talk about the other religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, other stuff that I have studied. That's going to be in the next video. That's it. Take care. God bless. Stay safe. And keep fighting for what is right.